Hey, on this video, I'm going to show you how to access and read your auction stats page. This is the page where you're going to get a lot of information of who's bidding on your auction, when bids are coming in, just a ton of really good information that you should be watching on a per auction basis. Not too closely every day, you'll drive yourself crazy, but watching trends, see when bids come in, and we're going to dive into it right away. So when you're on your auction page, you'll see the selected auction menu. And I'm actually showing you an auction here that's closed and invoices have been processed. But the auction stats button is going to take us to the auction stats page. Now, as I scroll down, you're just going to see some information here. Starting on the top, how many lots were in the auction, how many items with winning bids, if there were reserves, items that met reserve, all that information as far as items per auction. Next, you're going to go down to the bidding by the hour. Now, this is where all the really interesting stuff starts to accumulate. How many bids are coming in per hour? You can track the progression of this auction all the way till the end. And the really interesting information here is this one closed on April 14th. So we started the day on April 14th at $45,000 in bid prices, and we ended the day at $94,360. So it's not uncommon to see, like in this case, over 100% increase in that last day. You're going to see a lot of increases in the last hour, minutes of the auction. That's when all this is building up to. This auction was an equipment auction, had really steady following all the way up to the end, primarily no reserves. I think there were four lots with reserves out of the 50, and some higher dollar items as well. As we scroll down, we're going to see who's been participating, how many bidders are participating on this auction. In this one, we had 203 distinct bidders. And this next section here has bidders by account age in days. So that means 15 bidders on this auction had just registered within 1 day. 3 had registered within 2 days. 5 bid and registered within 7, and so on. So what we look at, especially when I'm doing extra marketing campaigns for an auction, if we're getting an increase in those newer bidders, it typically means we have done our job. You know, we're hitting the right audience. We're reaching a new audience of buyers who need these items tomorrow, and are going to increase our bid prices. So that's a good number. And on this auction itself, I think we had a relatively conservative marketing budget in play, but there was one in play, and we got over 20 new bidders that were participating on this auction because of that. That adds a lot of value to the bottom line of an auction. So of those 203 total that were participating, we had 33 distinct winning bidders, over 1,000 bids placed, and then total winning bid amount was just over $92,000. We keep scrolling down. Now we can see where those bids came from as far as region and location. So a lot of our bidders or auctions here in Minnesota, you're going to see a big focus of bidding activity in the metro area and beyond. And then we even have some out as far as Bismarck, Sioux Falls, Des Moines, even one in LA, it looks like, no others on the East Coast. It's not uncommon to see bids coming from all over the country, depending on what you're selling and what we're doing on a marketing aspect. You know, in this case, it was mostly older equipment. Nothing too crazy. Then need to ship a $4,000 skid steer, whatever it was, isn't necessarily appropriate. As far as a local buyer has more value in that, just rather than sending it across the country. So this one makes sense. Really cool to see that light up, and it's fun when we have some special auctions that get a lot of promotion and kind of take off a little bit through our social media, and seeing the rest of the country light up. Now down to the bottom here, this is our watch list statistics. So this is the last part of this page. Really important data here as well. It goes through your auction on a per item basis and how many bidders are watching each item in your auction. So this helps you, especially before the auction ends, to kind of see and gauge where items are at. It doesn't have necessarily a direct correlation to price, but it does have a direct correlation to interest. So if you believe that an item's valued at $5,000 and your watchers are in the 50, 60, 100 bidders are watching it, and the bidding's only at $2,000, there's a good chance that once the auction comes to a conclusion at the end, we have a lot of buyers that are paying attention to it and are watching it. And likely that the price is going to increase at the end. So when a bidder watches an item, it goes on their dashboard. They don't have to use the watch feature, but it just makes it a lot easier to bid if they're only interested in 1 or 10 items within a specific auction. So it's good information to gauge off of, especially if you're working with a seller who may be a little nervous coming up to the close of an auction. Sharing these numbers with them, saying, hey, yeah, we're at this point, we're 3/4 of the way through the auction. We're tracking where we thought we should. We have a ton of interest. We have in this auction, there's 544 total bidders watching. And you can point out specific lots that have, this lot 1 has 48 bidders watching. And you can also see how many bids were placed, distinct bidders, and then who your high bidders are as well. So you'll find that we're big on giving you this data. We want you to use it. We want you to have that information at your fingertips so you can access it and then really get comfortable with how the auctions progress, because that as a seller, thinking as a seller's mindset, that last jump in the last day, in the last hours, it takes a little bit of faith and believing that it's going to happen. It does happen every single time. But when you see it in person and you see it live on auctions over and over and over again, you'll start to believe it. And when you believe it, it's easier to sell that to your clients and your sellers. And that's really the name of the game here. Being able to talk confidently with them, and when you're explaining the auction process and what they can expect, and that they shouldn't, jump to conclusions or get discouraged when it's too early in the auction, because that's just it's not going to help anyone. And if they're watching too closely, they're just going to be nervous for no reason, because it's going to get to where it needs to get. That's what we've seen over years and years of doing auctions like this. So that's the auction stats page. Take a look at it. We hope this is helpful for you as you get into your running your auctions, and then really study that data, because it's very important, and it'll show you a lot of what to expect in the future.